Hello and welcome to the How to Exit podcast, where we introduce you to a world of small to medium business acquisitions and mergers. We interview business owners, industry leaders, authors, mentors, and other influencers with the sole intent to share with you what it looks like to buy or sell a business. Let's get rolling. Hello and welcome to How to Exit. I'm here today with Joe Valley. Joe Valley is a serial entrepreneur, it looks like. After building and buying or selling a half dozen of his own companies, he helped create Quiet Light Brokerage, one of the leading online focused M&A advisory firms in the world. Now, after facilitating over $500 million in exits, Joe has written a best-selling book, the EXITpreneur's Playbook, to help online businesses owners get the maximum value and the best deal structure when they seek to their own business. When they seek their own incredible exit. So, thank you, Joe. Sorry, I fumbled there. I've been doing that a little bit lately. So now you'll know it's live, organic, raw, uncut. And thank you for being on my show, man.
No, thanks for having me, Ron. That's a mouthful. Look, every time somebody says exitpreneur for the very first time, they stumble over it. And it's a funny story. You know, when I was writing the book and in the process of coming up with a title, I reached out to a dozen friends and influencers in the e-commerce world. And I said, hey, I've got two titles for the book. Originally it was just Exitpreneur, and the other title was Incredible Exits. 90% of those folks said incredible exits all day long, Joe. It just flows from the tongue. It just makes total sense. Of course, like an idiot, I chose the other one and added the playbook to it because it is really a playbook for both people that are selling their online business and acquisition entrepreneurs that want to buy one if they want to see the other team's playbook.
That's awesome. So one of the places I like to start is for our audience to get to know who you are and what you're up to. So can you tell us kind of how did you get started from whatever avenue you came up through the ranks here, buying and selling your own businesses up until writing the book in it. And now it sounds like you're a founder of a successful brokerage.
Yeah, I'm an entrepreneur first and foremost. I've been fully self-employed since 1997, but started, you know, dabbling in that all the way back to my childhood. And even through college, I started a restaurant delivery business called The Wrong Number. I was imbibing in something when I created the name, Ron. Let me just put it that way. I tell my kids I was an original Door Dasher. That company survived 6 months, and then I went to work for another company that eventually was bought by Grubhub. So I know it's not DoorDash, but a Grubhubber sounds so much worse than DoorDasher. But in my adult life, I became fully self-employed, 100% self-employed in 1997, and I resigned from my previous company, a company called Talk America, that was a direct response marketing company, probably just before I would have gotten fired, to be honest with you. But that's the life of an entrepreneur, right? You can only get so far before you speak up too much and have other ideas, and the boss wants to kick you out the door.
I make a horrible employee.
I was interviewed the other day by somebody who was a career waitress and turned entrepreneur, and I'm like, good for you, man. That's a hard job. I got fired from every waiting job I ever had, sometimes intentionally though. But I became fully self-employed in 1997. My goal was to make $50,000 in 1998 because I'd made about that much in 97. And I 10 times that goal and thought full-time entrepreneurship's pretty damn good. Now, when I started that company called JVI Media Buying Agency, I worked full-time in another job that I took at a call center while running my media buying agency full-time as well. So I was working, 80 to 100 hours a week until I could just focus on the business. That led to the first product launch in 1998, where I owned a brand essentially, and I did it on radio and eventually television. And yes, I had a website that I built for $50, but it wasn't really a website business. It wasn't a web-based business. We just had trickle sales on it. That ran its course, as many direct response marketing products do back in the day, radio and television. And then I launched another one in 2002. And that one I took 100% online in 2005. I did radio, I did television, but I took it 100% online in 2005. Got rid of all the pain points in my life because I had promoted myself to my level of incompetence, and that's managing lots of people. I let them all go. except for one person, and brought my office into my home and had that person come to my home every day. And I built that online business up from 2005 through the best of and the worst of the economy. Came out the other end in 2010, just tired, Ron. Worn out, tired, emotionally worn down. The business was doing well. It survived the downturn and the economy was coming back. But I woke up one day and said, I got to sell this thing. And it never occurred to me to build a business to sell until that day, which is just idiotic because the agency that I built and launched in 1997 at one time was doing more than $1 million in discretionary earnings. And I didn't think it was sellable. It was Joe Valley's business. I had lots of staff. I was replaceable, but I had such an ego. I didn't think I was. So I eventually just let that die on the vine and fade away. So anyway, I reached out in early 2010 when I decided to sell my business to any online brokers that I could find. And there were three at the time. Two were kind of reaching through their phone to get their hooks into me for a commission, and it felt pretty awful. And the third gave me some great advice after a second phone call with him. And he reviewed my P&Ls. We went through the Adback schedule. He educated me, taught me things. And then he said, you know what, Joe, if you wait another 6 months, you're going to make another 100 grand easily because the numbers are coming back up after the downturn in the economy. Basically, he told me to go away because it was in my best interest, not his. Well, really it was in his because I was hooked. I thought this guy is awesome. So it was a guy named Mark Doust, who's the original founder of Quiet Light Brokerage, now a firm that I'm a partner in. Well, I ended up listing the business 6 months later with Quiet Light, joined the company after taking a year off. So I joined in early 2012 when it was just Mark and Jason, who was my broker in 2010. And then shortly after that, Amanda joined. And that became my focus and my passion. I'd already built, bought, and sold a half dozen of my own companies, been very successful as an entrepreneur. And at this point, I wanted to focus on helping others not wake up and decide to sell their business, but actually take the time to prepare to sell their business. And since then, I've had over 8,000 one-on-one conversations with entrepreneurs. I've personally sold about 100 million in transactions, helped facilitate another 500 million through Quiet Light. And if we look back from 2012, the average deal size, Ron, might have been about 125,000 when it was just Jason, and Amanda. In 2021, the median deal size was 1.8 million. We closed just under 250 million in total transactions last year, and we've got a total of 15 advisors on the team now that are all entrepreneurs turned advisors. So, heck
That's
of a journey.
awesome. So it is a heck of a journey, and now you've got a book out to help others too. So somebody can start with a book, go through that. Tell us about what's in the book. So those of you out there who are thinking about exiting, you have a software company or an online business. Uh, what's the value point inside of the book that'll help them, prepare for a better exit?
It's everything you need to know to understand what brings value, what plummets value, how valuations are done, what buyers want. There's the 4 pillars of value in there that are not, it's not math and logic. It's all, things that will sway your multiple high or low in a multiple range. It's all the bits and pieces of water cooler talk corrected into accurate information, all the little different websites and blogs that you need to go to and people that you talk to that exited their businesses. It's all in one place. It's corrected and it's accurate and it takes you through the entire process. And it sort of demystifies the process of, preparing your business to sell for a maximum value to a great buyer at a great price and with terms that allow you to sleep at night, hopefully mostly cash, but and kind of honestly dispels the myth of you can you can do this on your own and you don't need to figure out what an ad back schedule is, because if you don't do a proper ad back schedule, I can pretty much guarantee you're going to lose tens of thousands of dollars in the sale of your business easily.
Yeah, a lot of people don't understand what you're referring to, but an ad back schedule is all the stuff that you use. Some people call it in using the business as a lifestyle business or whatever, but it's all the things that you use that you know you use on to fund your personal, like your everything from, I've seen car leases, I've seen cell phone coverages, I've seen somebody had all these Netflix accounts and everything else on there, the little
Yeah.
things, but there's some bigger stuff that's in there too that people fail to add back, and that really makes an impact, most of us are you're buying on a multiple of sellers' discretionary earnings or EBITDA.
Hmm.
So if you don't put those numbers back in there, you don't get that multiple. You're not losing a dollar for dollar. You're losing as much as $3 for every dollar you don't add back in, or maybe more if you've got a strategic purchase with the right guy. Right?
Yeah,
There's some.
I'd say anywhere from 2 to 7 times if you look at
Yep.
the, multiple ranges of what we sold last year. And it's not EBITDA. People would say it's maybe adjusted EBITDA. And the true
Right.
definition of an add back is a one-time expense, or an owner benefit. Well, let's
Right.
reverse that. An owner benefit or a one-time expense that does not carry forward to the new owner. Let me give you an example, a couple of dramatically different examples. Number one, if you own an e-commerce business with the majority being an FBA business and you've been reached out to by an aggregator, and that aggregator says, in a very charming, likable, well-funded, incredibly passionate way that makes you love them, hey man, we love your business. We pay all cash, close in 30 days, avoid the broker fee. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. But you're selling directly to an aggregator. If you own an FBA business, you probably subscribe to Jungle Scout. You probably subscribe to Helium 10. That's $500 a month right there. They already subscribe to those. So that is an expense that will not carry forward. That's $6,000 a year. If they're paying you a 3-time multiple, that's $18,000 in your pocket. I cover 18 additional ad backs in the book. That's not even in the book. I didn't even realize that until I was on a live stream, LinkedIn live stream with one of the founders of one of these top 5 aggregators. And it was an awkward conversation because I had to bring that up. He's like, yeah, no, you're right. Another extreme example would be I was at a 8-figure event for 8-figure sellers in October, sitting around a fire pit with one of the guys who's telling me he has a substantial offer in his business, $50 million. And I said, okay, well, did you, tell me about your P&L preparation and ad backs and things of that nature. And he kind of went blank, even though he's doing, multiple 8 figures. He didn't know what an ad back was. Okay. So you don't have to be huge to be perfect and understand all of this, or just because you're small, it doesn't mean that you should know this. He does $50,000 a month in cash back money. Cash back money, everybody knows what it is. And in his case, and in probably 90% of the P&Ls I look at, that money just slides over to people's personal account. It never hits the P&L. It's a discount on advertising. It should hit your P&L. It's the end result's the same. But he does credit card stacking so we could get that much. That's $600,000 a year in cash back that was not on the P&L. His multiple that he was offered for his business was 10 times. That's $6 million added to the list price of his business. He bought the beer for me that night, and we'll buy many, many more over the lifetime. But
It's a lot of beer.
add us, subtract zeros. It doesn't matter. There's so many nuances to it that you've really got to dig into it. And we won't go too far into the weeds, but understanding those things in a simple, logical way, as if we're sitting around, across the table from each other at a bar, at a pub. That's what's in the book, and trying to get it away across in a simple manner that people understand and can refer back to whenever they want to.
What you brought up is kind of interesting in the fact that I hadn't seen that level of ad backs because I don't do right now. I'm not into buying the software side of things, and I don't see a lot of the like the online side of things. A lot of the stuff I'm looking at is brick and mortar. But the point that it brings up to me is every industry has some of its own nuances, and to find a broker or an advisor that understands that industry and what's there and what's normal and what should be added back and all the different things and the ins and outs of that industry could net you quite a bit of difference in your end, you know, your end deal. Yeah, I'm sitting here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I would imagine, I've got 2 friends here that are brokers. I would imagine if we put the deal in, the same deal that you just talked about in front of both of them, we'd have 3 different numbers, right? As to what would be the end game.
Yeah, it has to be addressed with math and logic first and foremost. You can't do any gray stuff in there because that erodes trust, right? And when you erode trust, the deal that you're going to get, the offer you're going to get, is going to get diminished and reduced. You may get the same value, but it's going to be with an earnout or something like that because they don't trust you anymore. But there's so many different ad backs that I mean, even a website redesign is at the very least a partial add back if you don't do it every year. If you do it every 5 years, let's say it's 100% add back. If you do it every year, it's not an add back. Math and logic, simple as that. But you got to know what to look for, and you got to take the time to do it before you start negotiating with your buyer. Or it's really important as an acquisition entrepreneur to understand these, so that when you look at a P&L and somebody wants a 4-time multiple of their net income, and they haven't done any add backs, and you go, okay, their salary is 100,000. They didn't add that back. This, that, the other thing. Oh my God, really? This is a 2.5-time multiple. Yes, sir. I'll pay full price for your business, because you're getting, what I call an ignorance discount when you're buying the business, because they didn't do an add back schedule.
Right. So one of the things I'm always curious about, if you've been doing this for quite a while, right? So what's one thing you know now that you wish you'd have known at the beginning of your career? Like what's one key takeaway? Maybe it's in your book or whatever, but like what's a key takeaway that you wish you'd have known when you were selling your companies?
The reality is that historically, as entrepreneurs, we've been told we should always have the end in mind. When we start our business, we should be planning our exit. And I find that for the first time entrepreneur slash exitpreneur, if that's the path they're going to go down, it's complete and utter bull. Because all you got to do is try to keep the wheels on the bus, man. Right? You're just trying to make sure there's enough cash flow to stay alive. But at some point, 6, 12 months, along that road, that's when you've got to reach out, read the book, reach out to an advisor that will give you a true and honest valuation with no hooks. That's what the M&A advisors do in the online world. Do that. Don't wake up and decide to sell your business like I did. Even though I waited 6 months, if I had known that I was building a business that I could exit, um, hell, man, I would have sold the first one for a hell of a lot of money. And the last one that I sold, that e-commerce business that I sold through Quietlight back in the day, I would have sold it a lot earlier, or I would have pushed and pulled certain levers that would have increased the buyer's confidence. Those are the intangible things that can make an enormous difference when it comes to the deal value and deal structure that you get.
So I'm on the buyer side. In your mind, I kind of have my idea what increases buyers' confidence. But from your perspective, you've seen way more deals than I have, right? I've been in this for
Yeah.
2 years now, and so from what your perspective, what are the key elements to um, induce confidence, in a buyer? That
Yeah. There's really four things that buyers have consistently looked at. There's sort of four categories, and keep asking questions over the last 15 years that we've been doing this, and it evolves around risk, growth, transferability, and documentation. Let's jump to the last one. If you don't have financials, you can't get out of the starting gate with evaluation. So just knock it off, grow up, hire an e-commerce bookkeeper, outsource it. It's less than a car lease. They'll do the P&Ls. They'll do everything for you. And then once a month, you can analyze it and improve the key metrics of your business, the financial key metrics. So documentation is pretty critical. Let's go to number 3, transferability. It should go without saying that if the assets that drive the revenue of the business are not transferable, you do not have a sellable business. There's some challenges in some cases. If you are the name and face of the business, it's still transferable, but it's not as clean. You have to stick around for a while. You'll get out of the daily grind of ordering inventory and doing this and managing people, but you'll still have to be the name and face, because that's who the customer knows. So that transferability gets a little trickier. Growth, number 2. Really important that you're selling the business when it's growing, because if it's been growing and then it flattens and then declines just for a couple of months compared to the same time last year, buyer's going to go, oh, I'm going to project this out 12 months, and your 4-time multiple is going to really be, a 6-time multiple, because the trends are down. When you get into growth, buyers love built-in paths to growth, right? So you're buying a business from me, Ron. I have 16 SKUs, but I launched 7 of them in the last 12 months. And, they're not fully 12 months old. Some are 1, some are 3, some are 6, and they're already generating 30% of the total revenue. That's awesome. You love that because it's a built-in path to growth. Those are just going to grow and mature, and all you have to do is let that happen. Clear. Growth opportunity is really critical to buyers as well. If I have 16 SKUs, is that the most I can possibly have with my brand? Have I tapped it out? Or are there SKU expansions? Are there platform expansions? Are there country expansions? Things of that nature. Got to have that. If we go on to risk, really risk is huge, right? It may be in the form of the age of the business. The younger the business it is, the higher the risk. The higher the risk, the lower the multiple. A lot of buyers will come in first time and say, I don't want to risk a whole lot of money, so I'm just going to buy something small. Well, the smaller businesses are actually a little less established. They don't have a wide balance of SKUs. They don't have a wide customer base. They don't have recurring revenue or repeat revenue. And they are actually riskier. Buying a $3 million business that's well established, been around for 5 years, is much less risky or less risk than buying a 2-year-old business that's doing $400,000 in revenue. Okay. Very important. Fear of obsolescence, huge, huge. If you're selling a electronic device that needs to be updated or remodeled every year, I sold a electronics charging station a few years ago. Company, 70% of their revenue was from this charging station where everything had to be plugged in. Fear of obsolescence. All the buyers thought everything's going wireless. We're not going to have cords and plugs anymore. Total fear of obsolescence. Couple that with the fact that 70% of the revenue came from a single SKU. That's a hero SKU. These are all risk factors that will plummet the multiple range and cause a buyer to say, yeah, I'll give you X amount in cash, but the rest I need on an earnout.
So one of the things I'm concerned with the online stuff, and I have a background in websites and online stuff, but what I'm looking for right now, what I've referred to as the boring businesses, pest control, home construction, that type of stuff. But I wouldn't be opposed to it. But one of the biggest concerns I'd have for like a Facebook, a Amazon store or something like that is they're one decision away from being cut off. Like, Amazon could make one decision and, critically hurt, quite a few of those. They did it a while back on their affiliate program. I know some people that were making some really good money doing review sites like audio review, and they're doing really good. And then Amazon one day said, you know what, we're not going to give you, I forgot what it was, 8% or something crazy, 10%.
They cut
We're
it.
going to do one or two, and just dropped it. Like it pretty much killed their businesses. So my concern in that space would, if I were to look at something that had a few SKUs, maybe a dozen SKUs or something, I want to see that they're really dominate Amazon because that's the big gorilla in the jungle, right? But I'd also want to see that they understood well and could run well on, say, Spotify, or I don't know if eBay's even a player anymore. I'm kind of dating myself, or
It's
one
not.
of the other channels. But they have other channels. If something changed, they wouldn't die. They could actually shift and still push some more market into one of the other channels and still sell stuff. Is that an irrational concern, or what would you say on that?
Years ago, there was a huge fear and concern about FBA business, and let's just call that one, an e-commerce business that's doing 75% of its revenue on Amazon. Okay. It may have its own Shopify store and, other channels, but 75% coming from Amazon. That is essentially an FBA business. Huge fear there. People thought the sky is falling. Jeff Bezos is going to just take it all over. He's going to own all the brands and just sell all his own stuff. I always thought that was kind of silly, right? And now we have people that are smarter, probably, than you and I, incredibly well-funded, risk-averse, that have raised billions of dollars to do exactly what 5 years ago people were afraid of. All they're doing is buying Amazon-based businesses, and they're putting them into a portfolio, and the value becomes huge. So I think that there are risk in some categories, right? So these aggregators, for the most part, they won't buy electronic devices with big fear of obsolescence. They probably won't buy clothing businesses because the vast amount of inventory that you have to have, shoes and things of that nature. They stay away from certain categories. They're not buying affiliate businesses because they see that just like that, you can go from 10% to 4%. At a business under LOI when that happened. Actually, I was just listing it when it happened. And we had to go back into the Adback Schedule and make an adjustment for that change going all the way back. It's just the reality of it. The business was worth less. So there's a legitimate fear at a certain level there, but then you've got to go rational and go, okay, look, these guys have raised billions of dollars. Amazon is a publicly traded company. They're not just going to come in and change everything because it's going to hurt the stock price, and the stock price is most important.
So I get that the reason the risk is lower is it's a matured market now, right? Uh, those Amazon retailers make a significant portion of Amazon's money.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's, I can see that. Um, you know, I I don't know, but maybe it's just an irrational fear of, the unknown. What do they call that? The FUD, fear of the fear of, I forget what it is.
Are you talking about FOMO? Fear of missing out?
That's fear of missing out. There's another one. It's like FUD or something like that. Fear,
Yeah.
uncertainty, and doubt. Right? The fear, uncertainty, and doubt about Amazon being able to pull the rug out of underneath something you just acquired has me hesitant on it. But I get it. If you know that space, and you're proficient in it, that goes away. Just like anything else, you can remove fear, uncertainty, and doubt with the proper amount of training and experience.
Yeah, and on Amazon, obviously, review count is critically important. You want to get into that Amazon account and see what sort of warnings it's gotten over the years. If it's defensible, does it have a trademark? Does it have a utility patent, design patent, things of that nature? Is Amazon selling, in the same category? Chinese seller knockoffs, right? This is the next big sweep. Amazon's already starting to do it and shutting that down. Originally it was review manipulation. That still happens, but it's much harder. And eventually they're going to fix this, cheap knockoff, bogus review stuff. And it's going to get a safer and safer marketplace to build a brand, I think, over the years.
So to to share one of my own faults, one of the things I failed at. Um, I actually used to flip websites, just like, I've got a real estate background. We flipped houses, we buy and sell houses. But I'd find websites back then, the micro acquire and I forgot the other one off the top of my head, Flippa. They
Flippa,
didn't
yeah.
exist, right? But we had these warrior forums and stuff where guys like me who were building sites and e-commerce tools out and stuff like that would go on there. We'd help each other. We'd do some development for each other's projects and stuff. And occasionally somebody would go, hey, I'd really like to sell this. And there was a marketplace inside of that. So I would buy e-commerce sites back when you could put $1 into, Google AdSense and get $10 out. It was just like free printing
Gl-
money. Would go
glorious
buy
days.
these. Yeah, yeah. Now it's competitive. I
Yeah.
hate competitive. But no, I would buy these things and, just clean them up, do a better website, have my team redo them, get the numbers up and sell them because they were kind of just like everything else that sold out of multiple. My problem I ran into back then was the the guys out there selling the websites got really good at faking their profiles, meaning that like their PayPal accounts, their all this stuff that was you know, that you would look at to evaluate the price. A lot of it was faked, and I bought one. I won't even say it was 5 figures. It wasn't even in the 6 figure realm. Expected to turn it around, and within days of buying it, figured out that all their traffic was bought, right? That they didn't disclose, and it was a loss lead. They were paying so much for traffic that it just wasn't making money, right?
Yeah, there
Um,
there are ways to defend against that now.
yeah.
Back then there wasn't, and there's a number of different due diligence firms specializing in the online space. The one that comes to mind is Centurica, Centurica.com. They are a company that will verify all of the financials. They'll do live screen shares. They'll require access to third party information. Um, and look, we all make mistakes. That's the life of an entrepreneur. I said I took 2011 off, which I did, but what I was doing in that time was trying to find a business to buy, and I bought one, and I think I closed March 1st, 2012, and I had 42 glorious days. 42 glorious days, and then the Penguin update hit, and the six, rankings, six listings on page one went to page two, three, and four, and I lost, over $250,000. Talk about a punch in the stomach, right?
Yeah.
That's part of the life of an entrepreneur. We get excited about carry forward losses on our tax returns. There's companies that can help you with that. And if you're buying a $50,000 business or $500 or $5 million business, do the smart thing. I guarantee you that $5 million buyer is going to have a company due diligence for them. If somebody's using an SBA loan to buy a business, there's multiple levels of due diligence. They hire a third-party valuation company. They do their own due diligence. You should be doing your due diligence. It's your money. You worked hard for it. Protect it. But we do make stupid mistakes because we're entrepreneurs and we think we can do anything.
So you mentioned a couple of resources out there. What are the best resources you can think of that have helped you along the way that are still out there that people should look at in this space?
Honestly, I'm not a very tech-oriented person. You are more so than me, and I think the resource that you can best utilize is understanding who you are as a person and make sure you don't promote yourself to your own level of incompetence, right? And really, really don't get shiny object syndrome like we all do. Don't say, I can do that, when really you should be doing something else. So we were talking about Cody Sanchez before we hit record. Cody owns 26 businesses. She's all about acquisition entrepreneurship in those unsexy businesses, right? Vending machines, car washes, things of that nature. Um, I own one business now. Well, technically two, because the book is a separate LLC. But my focus is Quiet Light and building that brand and reputation and helping people understand the value of their businesses. And it's because I understand my own level of incompetence. I'm not tech savvy. We have a CTO. I cannot run 7 different companies at once. I'm not really good at delegating. Getting better at it with age. But the best resource you can do is figure out who you are and what you're good at, what you like to do, what you are. Well, yeah, okay, this is part of life. I'll do it, and then what you loathe. And if your business is all about what you loathe, then put somebody else in place to do it, or get rid of it altogether. So I think the first place to look is internal, not external.
It is really important people get that message. It comes up in almost every podcast that we talk. Almost everybody I interview talks about knowing who you are, what your skill set is, and who you need. And I should probably get an affiliate program from Dan Sullivan. I always promote his book. Dan Sullivan has a book out called Who Not How, and
Yep.
maybe in a minute when you're in deep conversation, I might reach up and grab it off my bookshelf. I don't see it right away. But it's really the beauty of that book is a lot of times if you're trying to figure out how to do something, and I got my air quotes off the screen, if you're
Yeah.
trying to figure out how to do something, you're very likely not the right who to be doing it in the first place,
Yeah.
right?
We've the executives on the I guess the executive team at Quiet Light now has all read it because we're part of a internal growth program. Uh, hold on, I'm going to grab a book, right? So
Yeah.
Gino Wickman's on the cover, and Gino's the founder of EOS. So we're in an EOS type program, and we've all read Who Not How. And for us, what it's done is we needed someone to be the point person for all these aggregators that are hitting us up with requesting information and telling us their full story. And in 2021, only 30% of our transactions were with aggregators, but they make a lot of noise. So we need to put somebody in charge of that. There's a woman that came on board at Quiet Light, Deanna Barati. She is that who, not how. She figured it all out. She was just a person that needed to be on our team because she could do so many different things and tackled so many different things. And lo and behold, because we picked a who, she's now on to the next big project already and doing something that we've needed to change for 5 years, our lead distribution program. And Deanna's tackled that because she's the right who, she's that right person on the bus instead of, me trying to figure it out and painfully piecing it together with VAs and things of that nature. So I'm on board with that 100%.
Yeah, it's funny is I've built websites and stuff, and I know I'm not the who for it, but occasionally it's like I'll just jump in there and do it myself, and then I realize I can spend 8, 10, 12 hours, maybe 30, 40, 50 hours, depending on the complexity of setting up a WordPress and all the plugins and getting it right. And it still won't be as good as, somebody I could pay, let's just say sub 2 grand, even like, 1,500, 1,800 bucks. It would dominate anything I could come up with. And I just wasted a week of my time. Right. And on a given day, if I don't make more than that in a week, I've really messed up. So, I'm a big fan of that. So it's funny that it comes up in every single interview. But it's critical to know who you have on your team, who you need on your team, and constantly be on the lookout for people going, "Hey, we'll figure out how."
Hmm.
Right? Because often when you say, "Hey, we need to figure out how to do this," it's like the phrase should be, "Hey, we need to figure out who can do this better than us."
Hmm.
Right?
I agree.
You know. So I appreciate everything we've talked about so far. I'm really kind of I really like the concept of the exitpreneur. I must still butcher in the the name there. I'll get it by the end of the podcast. I'm sure I will. You mentioned a few other books. When we started there, going back to the resource side. Are there any mentors out there, or anybody out there that if somebody or maybe even you guys have a program, somebody's got an e-commerce thing and they're like, I'm going to build this thing, and I'm not building this to be a lifestyle business and run it for 20 years. I want to build it, grow it, sell it, and go build something else. There are entrepreneurs who love that creation space, that build space. Who could they reach out to that help them like get through the process to where it's truly sellable at maximum value? Is that something you guys do, or is that?
It's exactly what we do at Quiet Light. And so there's a couple of steps I would take before doing that. Though first, I would set some goals, right? And not I want to sell my business for $1 million. That's a wish. That's not a goal. I would get very specific and something like with in the book I talk about dollars, date, and feelings. So I will sell my business for $5 million in the third quarter of 2024, and when I do, Ron, I'm going to feel just incredible because I'm going to be out of debt and I'm going to get spend more time with my family and take that 2 month RV trip we've always talked about. That emotional part will help you get over what you and I and everybody listening that's an entrepreneur know happens, which is those bad days, weeks, and months that we have as entrepreneurs. So set that goal, be very specific about it, and then just like if you put into Google Maps that I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina. If I want to go to Boise, Idaho, I know I can go north on 77 left, west on I-40, and eventually get my way there and figure it out. But it's not the most direct route if Google doesn't know where I am now. So you got to reverse engineer a path to where you are in comparison to your goals. That's a valuation. Firm up your valuation. You get pretty close with the book, but what you're missing are the actual closed transaction data, right? You might be able to do a pretty good job with your ad backs and your schedule and figuring out where your seller's discretionary earnings are. I give valuation ranges in the book, but those change as times change, right? They've gone up a lot in 2021. But reverse engineer a pathway to those goals by getting a firm valuation. And the advisors at Quiet Light are just like Mark was for me, helpful first and foremost. We're not salespeople. They're just entrepreneurs helping entrepreneurs. I have a personal mentor that I talk about on many podcasts, and I think I mentioned him in the book. It's Uncle Walter. Okay. It's actually my wife's uncle, a very successful entrepreneur that's now fully retired and plays lots of golf down in Florida. And when I was becoming a partner at Quiet Light, and I talked about the business model with Walter. I said, well, we do these valuations and we help and we coach and we guide and we tell them what levers to push and pull to make it more valuable to buyers, and we firm up their numbers, and then we just wait and see when they're ready. They'll come back to us. And he said, whoa, Joe, it sounds like you are just giving everything all away for free and just hoping that they'll come back to you. I'm like, yes, Walter, that's exactly the process, and it's worked for 15 years. It's what Mark did for me. He helped me, and because of that, I didn't really want to work with anyone else. He built trust in me. Anybody that is overinflating, over promising, under delivering on multiples and all this other stuff, just trust your gut and move on to the next one. But get a valuation by a professional, and then how close or how far you are to those goals, and then touch base with each other on a regular basis, just with an update. Simple as that. No commitments, no engagement letters, no nothing.
It's interesting as I've had probably a half dozen brokers on my podcast. And after the first one, who happens to be a friend of mine, but he was really new into it. I've actually talked to probably 30 on top of the half dozen I've had in on the podcast who wanted to be, but I'm a little biased. I did my research on you. I actually looked at your model online, what you said on your website and stuff, and it appealed to me that reverse engineer and the fact that you are willing to work with people and help them maximize that. is critical. There are so many brokers out there who, and I'm not trying to butcher brokers by any means, but the point I'm wanting to make is they're not all equal. There's bad actors in every space, and there's a lot of brokers out there that are making the majority of their money not off of helping you sell your business and maximizing what you get, but by charging you a listing fee and getting a listing contract, getting fees up front. And the scary thing is here in the United States, the industry statistics is something like 80 to 85% of all businesses ever listed by a broker never sell.
Yeah,
And
and funny enough, 98% of all the listings that we list sell. In fact, last year we had 3.77 offers on every single listing. 62% sold at or over asking price. We don't look at ourselves as brokers. In fact, we call ourselves advisors now in all facets of writing and communication. But more than anything else, Ron, we're entrepreneurs. We've been there, we've done that, and now we're helping. And so we are entrepreneurs and educators who happen to be M&A advisors as well. But that entrepreneur education comes first, right? And then when you're ready, and I always say eventual exit, right? Because I really want people to touch base a year in advance of when they want to have that exit, at least a year. And so when you're eventually ready to exit, hopefully we've built a relationship where you understand the value that we bring and you'll want to work with us. If you don't, that's okay.
I get
Happens.
that, and going back to what I was saying before, there's good and bad in everything. A lot of it is on the fact that in most states, I don't say most, I think there's less than a dozen states that actually require a broker's license to be a broker, and another dozen or so that you have to have like a real estate license to be a business broker because a lot of businesses are tied to real estate. But in both cases, where like here in Oklahoma, I have a buddy who bought a brokerage, and he said, "Hey, if you want to be a business broker, just let me know, and I'll throw your name on a card." I was like, "Hey, I'm really good at taking tests." I'm like, "Okay, what kind of test do I need to take?" "Oh, you don't need any test here." And I was like, "How is that true?" Right? You're talking
Mm.
about people's livelihoods. I was talking to one company last year that they've been running their business for 63 years. Can you imagine, like, taking a company that's been running for 63 years, and I'm not going to say his name or his brokerage, but going to a guy who just bought his brokerage to list your brokerage and has no experience in it whatsoever, has some training from his franchise.
Yeah, yeah. Titles are good, but they're just titles, right? So I'm a man without a title at Quiet Light. Mark wants to have me be called president. He's the CEO. He's the original founder. I don't have a title. I kind of like it. Um, I have a label on my card. I'm a in my signature line. I'm a certified mergers and acquisition specialist. Right. I've gone through the course, but honestly, Ron, um, it was relatively useless to what I do because I've already, by the time I took the course, I'd sold $80 million in transactions. So I learned, along the way, and we have a system and process. With that said, you you don't shouldn't have an advisor selling your business that has never sold anything before, unless they've got a ton of support behind them. Like every transaction at Quiet Light is not, it's led by one person, but everybody, including myself and Mark, are in support in the background. So you're getting the collective experience of 15 advisors that have sold $500 million in transactions. There is licensing nationwide, by the way, for brokers, but it's for stockbrokers. It's FINRA compliant. These are 99% of them are asset sales, not stock sales. And when it comes to online businesses, most of it's goodwill, at least 80%, 90%, in some cases 99% is goodwill because everything is online. It's all virtual. There's no physical assets to the business. The laptop, the computer, the cell phone, that doesn't transfer with a sale. So it's a tricky business, and um, you just have to find a firm that has been at it long enough that you can connect with. You know what the most important thing is, and this is where people make a huge mistake and don't do the work, right? Both buyers and sellers. Um, Look at the full packages that the firms put together. Now, I am on lots of calls with people that are buying and selling, and I say, "Well, have you looked at our listings?" "Oh yeah, no, I look at them on a regular basis." "Okay, I don't see you in the full pro. I don't see that you signed a non-disclosure agreement." Like, and they're like, I look at them online all the time." Well, the online listing is just the teaser. You're not supposed to really figure out what the name of that business is. What you absolutely should do if you're risking thousands of dollars of your hard-earned money, buying or selling, is click on a listing from any brokerage firm, M&A firm, fill out the non-disclosure agreement, sign it, and get that full package. And then you can get all the other full packages as well and digest them. Look at the questions and answers that are being asked. If you're not ready to talk to an advisor, you're going to see all the questions and answers that we ask at Quiet Light. Pretty damn thorough. It's all there. It's an educational resource that you could use if you just take the time to do it. But based upon 10 years of conversations, most people don't do that. But it's a really smart thing to do if you really are serious about buying or selling your business.
I I don't know if you approve of this, but I'd actually recommend it if you're going to sell your business. I would tell you to go to your broker, look at similar businesses on the brokerage. Not competitors, because if they see that, it'll be a problem. But just businesses in your genre, in your space, online businesses, or maybe in a different market or something. But before you use your brokerage, I would venture to say sign the NDA and look at what they put together for these other guys. I don't know how many times I've filled out something online to see the full package and been really disappointed about what was sent to me as a full package, right?
Yeah,
Like
you're saying it in such a nice, succinct way. That's exactly what I was saying.
yeah,
And the one thing that I'd add to that is that don't let the advisor send you package links because they're going to cherry pick them. You go in and you click on any of them that you want to look at. The ones that are listed by that advisor would make the most sense.
right.
But don't let them pick them for you. You go in and pick them without them choosing. That way you see the work, all the work that they do.
It's interesting. Is I had one particular first package information I got for the guy was really great. I was like, man, this broker is on top of his game. And then got into the discussions, found out that I had to move so fast on that one, it just wasn't going to happen because they had somebody about to submit an LOI, right? And they were pretty far down the path, and I was just not even not even sure I was totally interested in that industry, but it was a curiosity. So I was like, man, what else do you got? So I'm thinking I'm going to work with this broker, man. This stuff was thorough. It didn't look so, a lot of times these guys add so much stuff in. You're like, okay, there's a lot of BS inside of this stuff. This guy, it looked legit. The next two things he sent me were absolute garbage. And then I found out after talking to them, I made friends with that business owner, and he did sell to that other guy, but I still, chatted with him afterwards. And, what did you like? What did you not like and stuff? Might even have him on the show. So that's why I'm not going to say the brokerage name or anything. But sometimes I have businesses that exit on here. And my question to him is like, well, you did such a great job on your package, you know, I don't understand why I didn't get anything cool from him and everybody else. He goes, oh no, he didn't do ours. He gave us a list of what we needed, and I was so lost. I hired a third party marketing company that builds exit packages, and they did all the slide decks and everything and worked with me. They had an accounting team that did all the P&Ls and make sure they're right. They audited my books. They did everything that you've seen. They went through. And he paid
Yeah,
22 grand to have somebody else build that package to make his business marketable, and then paid the broker to put it on Biz Buy Sell to sell it. And
yeah,
it broke my heart because I was like, you don't ever have to do that again.
yeah,
you know,
yeah. And
so
the problem with that for buyers of of that brokerage firm is that when they look at uh, a new listing every day or every week or whatever it is, they all look different, right? So we've taken the approach of trying to break down barriers and make it easier for people to make decisions. So every P&L you'll ever look at is formatted differently, looks totally different. And so we import that P&L into our format in our system so that if you're a buyer and you look at Quiet Light listings every day, and we have launches 3 to 5 times a week now, um, all those P&Ls are going to be pretty much formatted the same. You'll know I need to look at the key metrics tab to see how revenue is, or discretionary earnings is as a percentage of revenue year over year. You can look at all the same stuff. The numbers are different. The guts of it are different, but it's formatted the same. Same with the packages. They're all packaged the same. We also do, and I think as I'm saying this, I don't mean to be selling, Quiet Light, because this is not rocket science. It's just hard work. One of the things that we implemented years ago, Ron, was an interview recorded via Zoom, video and audio of the seller of the business. So if you're, selling your business would be just like this. I'd be asking you questions, getting to know you so that the buyers can see you, see the whites of your eyes, see if they, get a good vibe from you, if they trust you, if you showed up with a, a Biden hat on or a Trump hat on, and you hate that person and that, you're like, okay, ruled out. I'm not going to buy that business. It's not hard work. It's just, I mean, it's not rocket science. It's just a little hard work. You got to put the effort in so that you make it as easy as possible for the buyers to make decisions. And that shortens the listing time frame as well, right? I think the average time last year from the moment it's listed to the money changing hands is 89 days or something like that. And that includes, multiple 8-figure listings that take, longer as well. But it's not hard. It's not rocket science. It's just hard work.
So right now there's a huge hot spot inside of the online business, the SaaS. Do you guys do a lot of the SaaS type of businesses or just the stores and stuff?
No, we absolutely do the SaaS. We do the majority of our transactions are still e-commerce, meaning more than 50%, right? It's probably more like 60%. And of that 60, probably more than 50 of that is FBA oriented. But the other 40% is a good mix of content and SaaS. And those portions are growing for sure. We're sponsoring MicroConf now and a couple of other sizable SaaS conferences. We've got some folks that are just brilliant in the SaaS space. David Newell, Chris Guthrie, folks like that know it incredibly well. John Hainstock, who sold a SaaS business, just joined our team as well.
Awesome. Well, I want to make sure everybody knows how to get a hold of you. So I'm gonna post up your LinkedIn at first. So here's the LinkedIn. Verify that with me, and so make sure I don't have to edit that.
That looks right.
Awesome. I should have done this before the podcast. All right. So, for those of you who are listening to the podcast, you can find him on LinkedIn. His LinkedIn is the standard LinkedIn URL, which is linkedin.com/in/the Joe Valley. And you can, I found him pretty easily just by Joe Valley. I thought that was a common enough name. It might be hard to find, but it was pretty easy to search for him on there. And the name of his company, and I'm going to show his URL next, is Quiet Light Brokerage. So when you're looking for Joe Valley on LinkedIn, you can either go to quietlightbrokerage.com. That's also on the screen. For those of you, I'll put both of those in the show notes in the description of the show so that you can
Yeah.
reach out to Joe here.
It's
Joe
actually
is
it's actually quietlight.com now, but it will still redirect to Quietlight if you type in brokerage.
okay.
Yeah.
So for those, let's see here. Uh, it should be this, right? So it's just quiet. You got the brokerage off of there's what you did, right?
Yeah.
So just
I spelled it so many wrongs when I was typing it in over the years. We had to change it.
all right. So let's see that. The shorter, the better. Is that right?
That's it.
Okay. So this is the correct one if you're watching. If not, just go to quietlight.com, QUIETLIGHT.com. And those will be in the show notes. Do you have any parting tips or wisdom you'd like to share with everybody before we wrapped up the show? Or
Yeah, I want to have you pop up one more URL there. It's not live.
okay,
It will be in 10 minutes, and it's exitpreneur.io/how-to-exit, and the number 2, how to exit. If you go
uh,
to that URL, exitpreneur.io/how-to-exit, you can get a free digital copy of the Exitpreneurs Playbook. It is the real thing, 300 pages. You can also buy it on Amazon, but the digital copy you can download and read on your Kindle, Nook, iBook, that kind of stuff. If you prefer the digital, and I'm going to do it for your audience only.
cool. So we'll put that in the show notes and make sure it's in the description one more time because I didn't type it fast enough and we're running out of time here. So one more time, what was it? Ex-
Exitpreneur.io
okay.
/how-to-exit, and the number 2
Okay.
in there.
All right. I will definitely make sure that that's in the show notes, the description. So if you're on Spotify or Apple, you'll be able to go to the show notes and that, or you can go to howtoexit.com, how the number 2 exit.com. And when the podcast is live, all the transcription and everything will be on there. So they'll be able to see the video and see the transcription and all the show notes and links. So, because I absolutely want people to work with those out there in the marketplace that will truly get them the best value. Uh, you know, as the buyer, I want a discount, but I'd rather buy it right. From a brokerage that really did the numbers right and maximize what that the seller is getting, than buy something at a risk at a discount and find out I bought a mess.
Yeah.
So I'm a proponent of let's do this job right. Make sure it's a win-win for both parties. And the only way to do that is to truly figure out who's on your team and who has the experience to get it done right. So I appreciate your time. Hang out for a few seconds after the show. And again, I appreciate you for being on it.
Thanks for having me on, Ron. Appreciate it. One more URL there. It's not live.
Okay.
It will be in 10 minutes, and it's exitpreneur.io/how-to-exit, and the number 2, how to exit. If you go to that URL, exitpreneur.io/how-to-exit, you can get a free digital copy of the Exitpreneur's Playbook. It is the real thing, 300 pages. You can also buy it on Amazon, but the digital copy you can download and read on your Kindle.